Are you confused on what you want to be when you grow up?
Curious to see what different careers are really like?
Don't worry, you're not alone.
Explore and find your passions with By Youth for Youth.
Access to knowledge, opportunity for exploration.
A video and podcast series run by youth for youth. Hi, I'm Sunny.
I'm Sahaana.
And I'm Nivi. And we are
By youth for youth.
So what are some obstacles you would say that you found in your career, and how have you overcome them?
I think, one obstacle is that compared to other professions, people who choose to go into, a business field, they know exactly what their aim is. And that's whether it's making widgets or providing a service for somebody, and it's very clear cut what they have to do, and there are usually willing participants throughout. So if you're going to make medical supplies, the more medical supplies that you can make and the better quality you can make them, and the more money that the company is going to make. But in education, the object is not to make a lot of money for the school district. It is to educate students, most of which are willing participants, but there are oftentimes other factors that come into play for which the school district is always trying to find what solutions might work for them. And a lot of times, we see that where there's students who come from low-income families, or there's other obstacles in their personal lives outside of school that really present challenges. So as much as we try to get everybody to the place where they can be ready to go to college and pursue their dreams after high school, even if that's not college, sometimes there are barriers that get in the way of that. And I think that those obstacles are the ones that are always a challenge to deal with. So as a school principal, it's always trying to figure out how to engage your community and the parents, to make sure that they're an active part in their students' education, to make sure that the students see that we are here for their best interests, and that we want to help them be the best person that they can be. And most of the time that happens, especially at a school like Fremd, but not always. And those are some of the frustrating aspects of this career and of my position.
Okay, so basically it's not as clear cut to finding solutions or identifying problems. There's more gray area.
Yeah, like within a company, most of the time I think that they have full control over the products or the services that they're providing, and that's not always the case here, and that's what just makes it a challenge, is that we're dealing with societal issues a lot of times, and those are hard to overcome, especially in a place like District 211, where we're not even a K-12 school district. So we inherit a lot of the problems even still that might exist from earlier educational experiences. We're lucky to have good school districts like District 15 and District 54 that feed into our school district, but there are still issues that remain with that.
So with those issues, how would you say you kind of, how do you come up with the different solutions? Because they're not, like you said, they're not clear-cut solutions where it's like A can be solved by B. You kind of have to come up with a more creative and more comprehensive approach. So where do you kind of figure out what's going to work best? How do you get inspired to figure out these different ideas?
Yeah, a lot of times it starts at the 30,000-foot view, where you really just examine what the issue is, and so we look if there are things that are systemic that we need to change, and so for example, with math, for example, most of our students come in taking geometry, but some come in, either higher than that or lower than that in either algebra or algebra 2, or maybe even beyond algebra 2. But we would like them all to come in at geometry and have that be their class their freshman year. And that's not always the case. So this is just an example I'm providing to just make it a little bit more concrete. And so it just takes dialogue with those feeder districts to say, this is kind of what we'd like to do, and then working through that with them. So then it narrows down to the individual student examples of how we can solve problems. So if a student isn't being successful in one course, we'll look at other things that we can do within the school, and it might be the creation of a new course. So, for example, we have a track of courses where students start at algebra, but it's a more accelerated algebra where they get 2 periods during the day to try to catch them up by the time that they're seniors, to get them to the same places where they basically can take they would fit in an extra math class during that 4-year span to catch them up with those who started in geometry. So that's then a problem that we try to solve within that. Then even like drilling down even more closely to the student level, the individual student is, we can look at a lot of interventions that we have here, whether it's tutoring or guided study hall or summer school or, a lot of programs like that somebody can go into to help them in their own specific individualized situation.
Okay, that makes sense. And I guess a lot of that has to do with communication. So how would you say either this job or just general experiences have kind of improved, like how would you improve your communication skills to get to a place where it's easier to kind of coordinate with different groups of people, different schools, and make these big decisions and changes?
Yeah, and I think communication skills are so important in every position in education, but certainly at the principal level. And I forgot to mention I was also part of the speech team in high school, and that was something that was out of my comfort zone, and I was absolutely not very good at it. But I knew the value of participating on the speech team and what it would provide for me in the future. And so I constantly worked on public speaking, and even in those times where I was nervous standing up in front of groups of people, I'd always look at it as a means to an end to get to a place where I could feel comfortable doing that. So I've given speeches now, like a graduation, for example, where you have the 750 graduates and all of their families. So you're talking a couple thousand people there, all the way up. Probably the most people I've been in front of is probably 5,000 or 6,000 people, and then sometimes the communication can even be more daunting if it's a small room of people who are unhappy with decisions that you've made. So you have to be able to clearly communicate, your stance and your position in that situation as well. So it's just being comfortable in all of those different roles.
So kind of, I guess, practice and like going out of your comfort zone, kind of.
I think so, and seeking out the opportunities to do, whether it's public speaking or to take part in groups and which can simulate serving on committees and things like that within your position, and I think just operating as a part of the team and just feeling confident and prepared in what you are going to say. And I think that is the other aspect of it, is that there isn't a situation I can go into and not know what I'm talking about and feel comfortable to speak in front of people. So I always have to do all my research, do all my planning and preparation on the front end to make sure that the product on the back end is something that people can trust and believe in. And I think that makes me a more confident speaker as well.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So kind of shifting focus, how would you say your job has impacted you? So given you new opportunities, new perspectives, it doesn't have to be necessarily specific to your career in education, but just any way it's changed how you feel about different things or given you new perspectives.
I think if I look more on a personal level, I think especially being involved in the educational world has just reinforced to me the importance of having an education. So for my own 3 sons at home, I will do anything to make sure that they are prepared. I think reading books to them as a kid, which is one of the most important things you can do as kids are younger, and spending just quality family time instead of plopping them down in front of the TV or video games. We absolutely did that abundantly as they were younger, and just now, making sure that they're pushing themselves in their schoolwork, so that there is not a self-imposed ceiling that they would do just by the lack of effort or emphasis that we've placed on education. So I think that's a personal impact that this position has had on me.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of, I guess, quotes and pieces of advice that say kind of like talent and like, I guess, natural talent like plays a huge role, but more than that, kind of just taking the time to better yourself is always kind of gonna get you further. Mm-hmm. So on the topic of passions, what advice would you give to students who don't know what they want to be yet and kind of are struggling to figure out what they are passionate about?
I think that there's still time. That's the piece that I would pass along to them. The encouraging thing, I think, one time I read a statistic that only about 25% of people use their college degree for its intended purpose. So, so even if you make it through high school and you don't know what you want to do, and you go to college and you still don't know what you want to do, that's okay, because most of the people who come out into the workforce are not using that degree for its intended purpose. And when I look at my own family, I see much of that in play. One of my brothers-in-law he had a journalism degree, and he's now working in the IT field. So it didn't quite, work out in that direction for him. But I think you definitely need to have a wide range of experiences so that you can see what truly interests you. Use high school as a time that you can take an art class, take a project lead the way class, take a computer programming class to see what interests you, and eventually you'll find out what that interest is and want to pursue that further after high school.
On the specifically the principal role, so what are some steps that people usually take if they want to get an administrative role? How do they go from being a teacher to that role? What do they do to get there?
Yeah, as with most things in education, it requires a master's degree. So most teachers, when they come in, they choose a master's degree in either their content area or curriculum and instruction or in leadership. And so it requires a degree in leadership. And then they have some that are even tailored specifically towards the principal position. And so you have to have a minimum of 5 years of experience in the classroom now as a classroom teacher, and then you can move into an administrative role.
So I think right about now, I think Maya was gonna come on and also ask some questions.
Yeah, so I was just wondering maybe what your favorite or most rewarding part about your job would be.
I think I think there's a couple. If I'm talking about working with students, it's to see them in those extracurricular activities. I think that's, you really get to see excitement and enthusiasm and just a high level of engagement in that. And when students are working together with their classmates in that capacity, it's just a really rewarding thing to see, and I really enjoy going to a choir concert and seeing the product that they can put on stage. I like to see a basketball game and not only the athletes on the court, but the fans in the stands and how into it everybody gets. And I think that that's part of the high school experience, and it's a huge part of it for me that I got to enjoy growing up, and I'm glad to see others enjoying that as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah. Extracurriculars are like some of my favorite parts of coming to school really getting to be part of a group. So on the contrary, maybe what are your least favorite things to do, or maybe like not so fun parts of being a principal?
Well, there are a few of those too. One of them would be the number of emails that I receive. And I would say I'd put it maybe around 100 every day. And so I spend a lot of time in front of the screen. And especially now, just as you all are doing, I feel like my life is being not wasted away, but I'm just spending a lot of time in front of this computer screen, and I find myself going on walks at night just to make sure that I get my body back into an upright position after hunching over the screen all day. I would say that I deal with a lot of people who are unhappy. Some of the times they're unhappy for legitimate reasons, and other times they're not. And so I think that I'm always very willing to help out the people who have a legitimate concern, and I enjoy helping to solve that issue for them. There are some people who they look at it more like I'm paying your salary because I'm a taxpayer and you will do what I want you to do, and they might have either an unreasonable request or their complaint is just not legitimate, and that one is one that tends to burn out not only administrators but educators as well, is the idea that we are a servant for the people, which we are, but I think that those who see the positions in the educational system for what it is, I think that it's much easier to deal with those people.
And then, is there anything you would suggest for someone who is interested in pursuing a job in the similar field as you are?
Yeah, and I think early on and I think colleges and universities do a pretty good job of this these days, but it's just getting whatever kind of field experience so you can see what it's like. So here at FREMD, we do have the educational internship classes, so students could take those to see if this is truly what they want. So for me, I said, when I went to college, I said, I think I want to be a teacher. And the first place they put me was an 8th grade classroom. And I'm like, I know that's not the place I want to be. I knew high school was the level for me, but you do get to learn quite a bit about what you'll be facing when you look at that experience through the lens of an educator as opposed to the rest of the students in the classroom. So I think that that's an important aspect of that. I think also summer jobs that are working with young people, whether it's through the park district or at the swimming pool, or summer camp, all of those I think are rewarding ways to work with young people to see if that's something that would be a valuable career for you later in life.
That makes sense. And then our final question for today is, if you had, I guess, a tagline that would kind of describe yourself in this field, yourself as a result of this field, what would it be? Just like a quick phrase or a few sentences or a few words.
A tagline. In my house, in our kitchen, we have a sign that says, "Attitudes are contagious, is yours worth catching," and that's something that I've tried to instill not only in my 3 boys, but I think that that's the way that I try to have people think about things, is that especially I think with any job, there are things that you like and things that you don't. But I think if you go through focusing on the parts of something that you don't like, or you refuse to acknowledge the good that's part of that, I think you're missing out on a great opportunity to fully engage in the experience, and to fully make self-improvement or self-promotion part of what you would do. So I think that always approaching things with a good attitude, and being fully present in the moment, I think those are important things for us all to remember.
Yeah, definitely. I think your attitude definitely shapes a lot about your experience with something.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this with us. We really appreciate it.
Sure. I'm happy to be part of it, and I'm honored to be somebody that you thought was worthy of a podcast moment. So thank you for the invitation.